Cool. Hi all. My name's Steve Pack, co-founder and CEO of RockSolid. We are bringing state-of-the-art liquid vaults to protocols. I will explain what they are for the benefit of everyone here. A little bit about me. Prior to co-founding RockSolid, I was head of product at the Mina protocol, ZK blockchain. I've been a rocket pooler for a number of years, and prior to that, spent a lot of years at Cloudflare. So been very deep into the weeds of product engineering and decentralized networks for a while now. So I'm going to talk a bit about what does the liquid vault landscape look like, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and then how liquid vaults can keep an edge in what's a growing but competitive space. So to start with, what is this? Unfortunately, in crypto, the word vault is used to mean almost anything. So I'll give you a definition of what we mean when we talk about a liquid vault. It's a smart contract that's non-custodial. It automates strategies, it maximizes yield, it attempts to minimize risk, and it applies some level of control and limits. That's still pretty broad. That can describe a lot of things. A more user-centric definition of this is it's a big fat deposit button. You click and put your ETH in there, and then other people are at work, humans or robots, executing DeFi strategies to make money for you. That's what a liquid vault is. That's still pretty broad, still a pretty broad array of things that a liquid vault can do. And so I think a more helpful way to think about these things is like analogies in Web 2. So probably the biggest liquid vaults out there, they act like tokenized DeFi hedge funds. So what does that mean? If you think of a hedge fund in Web 2, they take capital, pull it together, and then start running quite sophisticated strategies, derivatives, stop loss, derivatives, arbitrage, all sorts of things that require like a decent operational financial muscle. You need like risk levels, monitoring, all that stuff. And then they take a fee for doing that. So these liquid DeFi funds, they do that for DeFi. So similar sophisticated things, arbitrage, short positions, looping, all that stuff. But they run that for DeFi, take a fee. So that's the first one. That's probably the most common. The second type of liquid vault that you see is like focused on airdrop farming. So again, pooling capital, but deploying it to new chains, to new protocols in order to generate points. And again, just saving sort of people the work of doing the degen stuff themselves, that you're not having to click 1,000 buttons to generate these rewards. And then there are more starting to emerge. Sometimes you see both categories in the same vault, but those are the main ones, I would say. And the final piece, just to understand like how liquid vaults work and how they're put together, is what we call the yield stack or the supply chain. So when you're creating a new vault, you have an owner. This is the person with the customer relationship. They put the big deposit button up, they bring the TVL, and they assemble this team. And so they typically get on board a curator. So these are the sort of DeFi wizards who are developing, like what is the next DeFi strategy that's going to generate excess returns? Backtesting that strategy, executing that strategy, monitoring that strategy. The curator is super important for any liquid vault. And then there's the platform. So the actual smart contract that depositors deposit into. And then all the sort of controls of whitelisting, like what are the strategies that this vault can invest in? And that's what gives depositors kind of security, knowing that at least they know how their ETH is going to be allocated. There are some like movement between these categories. For example, there are curators that also own their own vaults. There are vault platforms that can offer some level of curation, but it's helpful to sort of think about these three entities when you're understanding the space. And this kind of puts it in map or logo form. If you're trying to think about where do various people in this ecosystem fit, this is for you. And just to bring it home, like some concrete examples. EtherFi's liquid vault is probably the biggest one. You can see there, it's curated by 7Cs. It runs on Veda. That's the first type I was talking about, the kind of the DeFi hedge fund style. This is the second type, the more airdrop one. This is a Kelp Gain Vault, where curated by Tulipa and August, where they're out there farming points. So why do we care? Why is this something worth paying attention to? The great thing about liquid vaults like for those of us who are deep into Ethereum, it's been a kind of a rough patch, or at least like I'd say middling sentiment, not great sentiment in ETH over the last 12 months. But vaults are really a bright spot within that. They've grown rapidly. Probably can't read all the scale of this Tune dashboard, but this is just an example of some of the larger EtherFi vaults growing to 200K, settling around 150K for the largest. Some of that's mercenary capital, but it's still maintained a quite steady base there. So at a time when projects were struggling, sentiment was down, these new vaults are launching and really growing super quickly. And so this is a really bright spot in the industry. And also at a time when staking flows are going down, you see less Ethereum staking in the last 12 months. Restaking is kind of maturing, I would say, as a narrative. But liquid vaults have been a real bright spot. And it's because they have product market fit. Degen's going to degen. Degens love doing their own thing, finding their own alpha. But this sort of deposit ETH and earn 10, 11, 12% by someone else's work, that employing all of the latest DeFi strategies, that is clear product market fit in crypto, something that is often elusive. So why isn't everyone doing this? Why doesn't every protocol have a liquid vault for its users? It's still it's kind of complicated, and it's getting more complicated. If you're going to be a competitive vault today and offer really quality risk-adjusted returns, you need access to all strategies, and that encompasses at least staking, restaking, liquidity provision, lending, fixed floating strategies, probably on Pendle, and then participating in these new chain incentives. So you're probably going to have multiple strategies within each of these categories. It's a lot. And then you bring in the L2-centric roadmap, which amazing for bringing Ethereum scale, but in terms of operational complexity, if you're running those strategies across the L1, multiple L2s, and other chains, multiply those two together, you get a lot of operational complexity. So it's not easy, and that's why not every single protocol has a super easy to deposit liquid vault. Yeah, so this is what it looks like as the minimum requirements. Single click, highest yield, lowest risk, low fees, every protocol, non-custodial, no lockups, no losses, certainly no losses. We won't want that. No withdrawal delays, be fully transparent, and be perfectly accurate. That's kind of the minimum cost of entry to be competitive as a liquid vault today. And there be dragons here. I'll just focus on the new protocol risks. Anytime there's a new protocol, there's risk of delays of launch, delays of distributing points, hacks, and then even the kind of black swan style. For those who saw the usual DPEG, this wasn't a hack. It wasn't even a problem with the mechanism. It was the team taking feedback from the market and deciding to make a change kind of suddenly that not everyone understood, that caused the asset to reprice. And so, that's a pretty hard risk to anticipate. And so that's some of the value that, curators who are really deep into the weeds of understanding, what power, for example, a team has to change the economics of a project. That's the sort of thing you want your vault doing and your vault curator doing for you. And then, even just basic stuff, right? Your vault allocates some ETH to a new chain. There's a date on which the rewards are meant to distribute. There's a problem. The script has a bug. The team has to fix it. People get angry. People expect their points, on the day they're expecting them. And as you can imagine, your internet anons. This is just a random excerpt from a Discord of a liquid vault. A couple of days late, and you are the devil. Okay, so this is a growing market, but it's complicated, and there are barriers to entry. So who wins in this type of market? Interestingly, the answer is kind of the same for any business. Distribution is still king. This is one of my sort of favorite Web2 business charts. Which is the better product? Is it Slack or is it Teams? Which would you rather use? I'd say Slack, but you can't compete with Teams for distribution. And so, having the user base is still a massive advantage in liquid vaults, as in anything in Web3. You need to be competitive with yields. We would love to think that every user who's going to deposit in a liquid vault would do lots of research into the vault owner, the curator, what are the strategies. Actually, often it's sort by yield, click deposit. So no matter what you're doing, you've got to be competitive with yields. And one way you do that is control your costs. The less your costs are, the more you can pass on to your users. And so other edges that new entrants into the Vault landscape can take advantage of. We're at DeFi AI here today. AI in Vaults is the same as any business. You can leverage it, really at all parts of the business. So in Vaults, AI is a super helpful companion to assess new protocols. Like, what are the risks? Like, help in the due diligence of picking up where risks are. In automating strategies, you don't want like armies of humans running all these strategies for you. AI is already getting there. Lots of space for AI to improve operations. Another area this is competitive is just new strategies. Like, DeFi is super competitive, and edges get competed away really quickly, especially because things are visible on chain. So, the curator especially has got to be like forward thinking, coming up with new strategies, and delivering that edge to your vault. And the last thing I'll mention is the personal network. We're going to hear a bit about this from my co-founder later, but we'd love to think that all of crypto is decentralized. In reality, it's not, and there are aspects where just your personal network and being early to a new chain or new protocol can get you better returns. And so to the extent that the Vault team is able to source opportunities, those lead to outsized returns. And then, as a new entrant into the Vault market, we can't share everything just yet. But a bit about RockSolid. We're launching later this year. We'll be announcing our first partner protocol soon. And why should protocols consider liquid vaults? I think one thing that every protocol cares probably the most about is buy and hold pressure for its token. And as I said before, like there's a class of user out there that loves taking a token and doing all of their own, DeFi, degen stuff, and they'll do that. But to the extent that you can offer a super simple UX, which is deposit your token here, and we will do all of the DeFi magic to generate those excess returns, that's just another reason to hold a protocol's token, another reason to hold the token. And for anyone here who is looking for alpha, follow us on Twitter. As we start to launch our new vaults, there's always incentives for early depositors, so follow along as we announce our first partners. All right, that's it from me. Thanks.